So it's been 3 months since I purchased the newly redesigned Mac Mini with the M4 Pro processor, but as a reminder, I picked up the base M4 Pro model and I have it connected to my dual 34-inch monitors. The base model comes with 24 gigs of memory and 512 gig SSD hard drive. And you can check out my other video where I go into a little bit more detail about how I ended up with that. But I figured it's about time to go ahead and post an update and talk about where I am today and my thoughts about the purchase. So there are a few things I want to cover about this purchase. Like, what do I think now? How has the transition been from a purely Windows user to a Mac? And do I have any regrets or issues? So let's jump right in and check that out. Let's start with the 3 months of use and the transition from Windows to the Mac. I've been using the Mac about 80% of my time and I've really enjoyed using it. Probably the one thing I'm not doing 100% on the Mac is gaming. And I still find that my Windows desktop is better for gaming. But mind you, I haven't tried every game on the Mac yet, but the ones I have tried, on both machines, the Windows machine, it's just better. However, the Mac wasn't horrible. It was functional, but it just wasn't as good. I do understand that my Windows machine has a dedicated graphics card that's designed for gaming. In fact, it's got a NVIDIA GeForce RTX 3060 Ti in it, but Apple keeps continuing to tout the capabilities of the new Apple Silicon for gaming. So I wanted to give it a try and see how it compared. The primary test I ran was playing a game called No Man's Sky. It's fully playable on the Mac, but the graphics quality in general was sharper and more defined on the Windows PC. And really, I felt like it had smoother gameplay. I found a lot of the details were much lower, almost like I was playing the game in kind of the middle quality setting. And when I went back to the Windows machine, it was noticeably better. And I actually plan on trying a few other games like World of Warcraft on it pretty soon, but the problem is it's such a big install. I don't want to use up so much of my hard drive on that machine. So what I plan on doing, however, I believe I'm going to use the external SSD I currently have connected to the Mac Mini. And so far it's been fast enough for my video editing work, so I might just give that a try and install it on there. However, that brings up another issue that I have with the Mac, the mouse. I have the Magic Mouse, which I love it. It's great. It's the USB-C Magic Mouse. It's just not as natural and fluid for controlling games. It's functional, but it's not ideal. So I thought about plugging in my gaming mouse to the Mac and playing that way, but the problem is there's no USB-A ports on the Mac Mini. I did get a hub that has 2 USB-A ports on it, so it is possible to connect it to that and use that, but the Bluetooth connectivity with the Magic Mouse is so much better, and I just wanted to find another solution around that. So I did look around for some Bluetooth gaming mice, but oddly enough, they're not that common without having to actually have a dongle plugged into a USB-A port. And I'm trying to do this without having a dongle. So I'll probably just have to go with one that has the dongle or the cabled mouse. And I might even try getting a USB-A to USB-C adapter to see if that helps. But in general, for normal everyday use, the Magic Mouse is fantastic. I love scrolling function that you use on top of the mouse. And as everyone has said, unfortunately, one negative about it is that the charging port is on the bottom, and that's a little ridiculous. So I'm not 100% there. Is it a showstopper? No, definitely not at all. It just takes a little getting used to the adjustments. Okay, so back to gaming. I've already played a few other games on the Mac, and they all run just fine. Minecraft runs good, as do a few other games I've tried, and I just need to experiment a little bit more with it. I just don't want to go down the route of choosing software like Crossover that requires you to use a subscription to play like Windows games on the Mac. I might play around with Whiskey, but what I really want to use is native games to the Mac so that I'm exploring those options instead. So with this project of getting my YouTube channel started, I backed off my gaming a little bit, but now I'm starting to get back into that a little more. So I'll have a little more time to experiment here in the future. So let's talk about productivity and general usage. I use it 100% of the time for day-to-day activities. I moved over my email, I moved over video editing, photo editing, internet surfing, anything I do on the internet, anything I do on a computer, except for gaming, I do on the Mac now. I only flip over when I'm playing those games, and again, it's not that common, not that often. Otherwise, 100% of the time, the Mac is front and center. One topic that I will be probably covering on a separate video is how impressive the Mac is with these little simple things that you can do on it that just make sense. As an example, things simple like setting up a printer. Windows is better than it was years ago in that area, but holy cow, it's simple on the Mac. All you have to do, it literally took me 15 seconds to set up our printer that we have in the house. I didn't have to install any drivers. I didn't have to download any software. It just worked. And there's tons more things like that which make me chuckle or laugh and say to myself, well, that was easy, or that was ingenious the way they thought about that, or just something that seems intuitive. And I do like those things. But like I said, I'll put that in another video and cover that in the future. The Mac Mini connects to my existing monitors without any issues, and I have a dual 34-inch ultra-wide monitors on my desk. One of those provided by my work, but I haven't had any problems connecting and using it on either one of them. It's been fully functional. There's no image quality issues or wonkiness. It's fantastic having the big monitors in conjunction with the Mac. One issue I had, which I finally found a workaround for, is I wanted to play around with the continuity camera features using my iPhone as a webcam. And using the iPhone as a webcam works really great. There's no issues there. The problem is, how do I mount it above my existing monitors so that it was usable and not awkward? I've tried a bunch of different mounts. Some of them fall off the back of the monitor because my iPhone is actually rather heavy, so it won't hold it up properly. So another one I've tried, none of them have worked perfectly. I have finally ended up with this one desk-mounted option that holds it up out of the way. It's not 100% perfect, but it works pretty much for my arrangement, and I really don't use it a whole lot, so it's not something that's a big deal breaker for me. Now, when I originally purchased it for video editing and my YouTube work, it's been exceptional at that job. I use DaVinci Resolve Studio for my video editing, and it runs like a dream on the Mac Mini. It does have the M4 Pro processor and 24 gigs of memory, so you would expect it would run really good. We've already talked about this, talked about whether it's more than what I need for what I use it for, and yes, I agree it is, but you know what? I love it. I love having the headroom. I love having the extra power ready for whenever I need it. So at some point, I hope I will be using the full power of this machine, but for now, I know I'm got a little bit more than I need at this point. I did do some comparisons between the Mac Mini and my Windows Ryzen 7 desktop, and it's night and day faster and way more useful than the Windows machine is. I rarely hit any moments where there's been any signs of hitting any limitations. The only time it's ever really slowed down is when I was doing some experimentation and running some elements in DaVinci Resolve that were really complex. And even people that were talking about that type of function were saying that it slowed down even the fastest machines. So I'm good with that. I don't do those hardly ever. I'm just learning Fusion, so there's no issues there. I did come across one issue that I still haven't resolved to my satisfaction, and that's the speakers. The speaker on the Mac Mini itself just isn't good enough for my use case. It's not loud enough. I need stereo speakers with what I do with the video editing. And I tried using a Y cable to split my current speakers between my Windows machine and the Mac, but I started getting some feedback across the line, so that didn't work. So what I did instead is I picked up a second Apple HomePod Mini, and I set those up in a group and connected the Mac Mini to those. They sound fantastic. The music is very good coming through them. However, there is an issue that when you're using them to edit video in DaVinci Resolve, the audio is desynced from the video. And I've looked up ways to fix this, and apparently it's a regular complaint about using them as speakers, and apparently there's no fix for it. So there doesn't appear to be a permanent fix for this issue. So when editing video, I end up using my Apple AirPod Pros instead, because they don't have any issues at all, and they just work just fine. So my next step down the road will probably be to invest in a decent pair of studio monitors for the desk. maybe a pair of Edifier speakers or the ProSonus Studio speakers. We'll see what I end up, but that's going to be a problem for another day. And I have a workaround now that works for me. However, there is one regret that I have with the Mac Mini. It's simply this: I can't pick it up and take it with me to the coffee shop, for instance. Also, we're going to be going on a trip pretty near in the future to Scotland. Be sure to watch my other channel here to see video from that trip pretty soon. But I can't easily throw the Mac Mini into a bag and take it with me and edit video on the go. Now, I know there's several people out there who have found very interesting ways to make it a portable device, and those are quite creative, like using an iPad for a monitor or taking an HDMI cable with you and plugging it into the hotel television with your keyboard, mouse, and using it that way. But I have recently addressed that issue, and I'll have another video in the very near future to show you what I did. So when I jumped into this purchase, it was, I have to admit, fueled by the hype machine that Apple is so good at, and my initial thought was to get just the base model. It was so inexpensive that I wasn't worried about it being portable. But then I overthought the purchase. I bumped it up to the M4 Pro, and next thing you know, I was in for a bit more than I initially intended. I don't regret getting the M4 Pro, but I think I'll be happy with it for many years to come. So after spending some quality time with it, I asked the question, how do I feel about these acquisitions? And I think the move to the Mac full-time has been successful. I am very pleased with the new gear. I've been surprised with its performance, and I think it's met every expectation and then some. It's not perfect, as I said before, but it's things that we can work around or work with. And the good definitely outweighs the bad. So, did you purchase a Mac Mini? Has it been good for you? I'd love to hear your experiences in the comments below. So be sure to check out my other videos, look for the upcoming videos talking about the transition from Windows to the Mac, and how I fixed my problem with portability. So I appreciate you watching, and I hope I will see you in the next video.